Hello, hello, welcome in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. My name is Kiki, and this is Coaching Over Cacao. So grab your favorite warm beverage, coffee, tea, cacao, matcha, or water. So we have been on a series of posting potion ingredients, and I was led to do a part 2 of potion powered coffee, words that work like magic. So I wanted to go a little deeper on the coffee itself. On the first video, we spoke about the platform, the purpose, and a few other things. So really wanted to focus more on the storytelling and type of words. So how weaving a short story, an engaging story or a narrative, even just something that happened to you in line or in traffic, just everyday things that we sometimes take for granted. We're like, oh, nobody wants to hear about that, but they do, right? I mean, we watch shows about drama. Reality TV was birthed because we love drama. We love, it's like, ooh, what's happening in their life, right? We love that distraction. We're pulled in, we lean in for that. So it's also really powerful in our subconscious because we remember stories. How many of you remember high school or college or the last coaching call you were on or a course you took? What stands out? What do you remember the most? For me, out of all of those scenarios, it's whatever that story was, that funny, that aha. Like I can remember my Shakespeare professor. She was short. I used to call her a gypsy. She would sit on the table and she had these beautiful rainbow colored gypsy skirts. She was short. She was like 5'10", 4'10". And she'd swing her legs back and forth. And she would just ask us questions and have us kind of like verbally fight and argue different topics about various Shakespeare plays. And she was brilliant and really taught me a lot about writing and storytelling and really helped bring a lot of those skills out of me. And she had great stories of her life and her travels. And that's what I remember. Like I remembered her dresses and her skirts and her mannerisms and her sprite-like stories. So thinking back to people you look up to or you follow maybe as a mentor or even podcasts, like what podcasts, if you're a podcast listener, do you listen to? And maybe you come back and listen to these just audio, or I've had some people tell me they play them and listen to them in the car. And I love that. That's amazing. What stands out to you? It's probably not the meat and potatoes of the content, right? That's what like, oh, I should listen to that, or oh, I really need to improve in this area. So let me listen to this and see if I get some pointers. But what do you remember, right? I've had 4 or 5 people reach out from the hook video I did, and the number one thing they remembered was the cheesy pickup lines from the beginning. So, but that connected it, right? You're like, oh, that's the first impression. So I guarantee those folks will remember a hook in their copy somewhere because of that cheesy story I shared. So where in your content can you share more stories, right? And it can be your stories. It can be your client stories. With clients, I ask permission and I never share their name. And I'm trying to move away from even he and she and just saying they as well. They do think that there's a privacy and a respect. And some are like, oh, you can share my name. And I'm like, thank you. But the story is what matters, right? Not the person and not what they're going through, what the transformation they've experienced is really what we want to talk about, what we want to share about, because that's what gives people hope. That's what helps with the reframe. Our brain looks for proof. So if we're telling ourselves we're never going to feel better, right? And I'm saying this like as a customer, maybe we're soul line client, we're meant to help. Maybe they don't feel well and they felt depressed and they can't put their finger on why. They just are beating themselves up. Their brain is looking for someone who's been depressed and got out of it. And the more that we can share examples of that, if that's our niche and what we do and focus on, that will help them see that light at the end of the tunnel And that light is you and your services and how you can help them navigate the darkness they're in, right? It engages emotionally and also stimulates the imagination. And that gets that creative side going for your clients, because then they start to imagine, well, what if it's possible? What will my life be like when I'm not dealing with this? I can feel lighter. There is hope. There is joy. There is happiness. This isn't a forever feeling. This will pass, right? And storytelling positions you as the authority in an aligned and truly authentic way. So, yes, we can do a lot of how-to content, but honestly, that's been dead for 2, maybe 3 years. I don't know about you. I don't go to Instagram to learn, right? That's mindless scrolling. Doom scrolling, whatever they call it. TikTok, it's half and half. It depends on the creator. Some are educational, some are entertaining. I really like the edutainers that weave education and entertainment seamlessly together. That is a goal that I strive for in my content. I want people to feel good when they're consuming my content, right? I want them to walk away learning something new, feeling better, smiling, so think about what you want your folks to feel as you're creating your content, as you're thinking about what story am I telling today? What can I share that will help them? Baby steps, move the needle a little bit, right? They're in A and they want B. It's not always a straight line. And it's not always one step. It's a series of baby steps. Well, some of those steps, you can take them on through your content and in your storytelling. And then they get to a point where it's just not enough and they want more. And that's when they raise their hand, they click the button, they sign up, they can't wait to work with you. So give them more, right? And storytelling helps your content not feel flat or impersonal or like a bulletin board, right? You ever go by like the library or the coffee shop and there's that cork board? I don't even know if they still do it. It's probably digital now, but it has like the business cards. That's where like if people were renting rooms or they had things for sale, you could pull it, and it used to have the phone number on it, like old school paper marketing. And it was overwhelming. I couldn't focus, and it was like dry cleaners and real estate and qigong and like all kinds of stuff all on one board. Well, when you open up an app, any social media app, it can be overwhelming, right? They all have their way of organizing and funneling things to you that they think they will like, right? That's called the algorithm. That helps, but it's not perfect. We want to work with the algorithm. We want to feed it more authentic information so it shows it to more people that need and want it and will benefit from it. Those are our soul aligned clients. Then we start to magnetize our accounts for those people. Using persuasive language. So this was something that took me a little while to grasp, because there's telling a story and you kind of like put a story out there and you're like, cool, here you go. Crickets. Well, yeah, because it's missing the other ingredients, right? It's missing the hook. It's probably missing the visuals. We'll get into hashtags and SEO later, but persuasion in your copy, you're telling a story with a purpose, with a point. You're directing them to something next, whether that's a ... watch part 2, stick around for next week, right? You're building that anticipation and that excitement. Persuasive language not only informs, but it inspires your audience to take an action. So the hook alone isn't enough, right? It's a blend of all of these ingredients that make it so magical. And persuasive language uses strong, emotionally charged words, also uses clear benefits, and somewhere in there is a sense of urgency. So persuasion compels action, whether it's to click a link or sign up or follow for more. You want to keep it simple, and I try to stick to one thing per post. I'm not going to ask them to follow and click and save and share too much, right? That decision fatigue kicks in. Effective language can also turn those who are skeptical or maybe on the fence, or I call the looky-loos, where they're like, what is they doing today? Oh, wow, they've been really pushing out some really cool content. Okay, I'm going to finally follow them. So now you're going to show up on their feed more regularly. And now you're showing up more regularly. They're seeing you and they're consuming, right? It's like a Dear Diary, but they're reading your diary. And it's like, oh, this is great. And then they're like, oh, she wants me to click. He wants me to buy the thing. Oh, they have an event next week that's virtual. Oh, it works with my schedule. I'm finally going to get to meet them virtually. Right? There is that excitement on the other end. We just don't realize it, right? Because we're juggling a lot of things behind the scenes as business owners, in addition to the energy work and the healing modalities that we offer the world. On top of hopefully also taking care of ourselves. That self-care, I've been making it more of a priority because it was in the back burner again. And I was like, no, Kiki. So persuasion also builds trust by aligning with your audience's needs and desires. So I wanted to give you an example when I worked around my Celtic Reiki sessions. So are you ready to connect with the ancient wisdom of the earth and unlock deep healing within? Here's the hook. A Celtic Reiki session taps into the powerful energy of nature, guiding you to release blockages, restore balance, align with your true path. So benefits. Imagine feeling lighter, more grounded, and in tune with the natural rhythms of the universe. So additional benefits. Your healing journey awaits. Book your Celtic Reiki session now and experience the transformative magic of this sacred energy. Spots are limited, so take the leap and claim your healing today. So I legitimately have limited sessions every week, right? So I'm seeing clients. I am doing etheric work where I don't meet over Zoom, but I'm in the ethers, and I'm doing sessions and doing recordings and sending notes to clients. And then I'm meeting one-on-one over Zoom, right? So my business is 100% virtual, digital. I'm also not great at lying. So if you have 20 spots open, saying spots are limited might not feel great, but if you only have 3, this might feel good for you. So make sure that the verbiage you choose and select for the persuasion and the sense of urgency fits what you're actually talking about, so it feels in alignment and feels good to you. So those benefits, there were 6 different benefits in there before I asked them to do something. And using the words, book your session now. So using the word now is a really key one. And limited time, limited edition, using 2 or 3 spots available. Like, so if you have specific numbers that you know are available, those are really great. People love numbers, especially when they're small. That really, like, our brain is triggered. I don't want to miss out, right? We have that, triggers that FOMO, fear of missing out. So persuasive language uses emotional appeal, highlights the unique benefits of Celtic Reiki, and encouraged immediate action, right? Book now, limited spots. So that's one example of a way to package persuasive language. And there was even a little story in there about nature and the trees and woven in between the different benefits. So it wasn't just a laundry list of feel grounded, right? Because you're like, oh, stop talking at me and talk to me. I'm very picky when it comes to how I'm sold to or how I'm marketed to. And there are some amazing emails and newsletters I'm a part of, and there are some that I unsubscribe immediately because it feels spammy, it feels salesy, it does not feel genuine or authentic. I can tell and sense it was a template. And we're in 2024, right? Our audience, our followers, they're super smart. They're super savvy. They've been around. They know the digital game. So meet them where they're at. Treat them with the respect they deserve, right? They're smart. This isn't a gimmick. This isn't a tactic. This is copywriting. 101, right? Storytelling, evoking emotion, benefits, persuasion. At the end of the day, they're making a decision. You are not forcing them to do anything, right? We're merely putting our information out there, detached, not telling any stories. The right people will come into our space to work with us because we are a magnet. We are attracting those people by the stories we're telling, by the words that we are selecting or saying, right? Some of you might be more auditory and love the talking head, and you just show up and you start talking and you're good to go. Others like the written word, and even others like a combination. There is no wrong way to show up on your platforms. The biggest thing is show up more and show up consistently. That will build a thriving community of raving fans. And then the last thing I wanted to share was clarity over complexity. This one was another one that I struggled with in the beginning. I had all this information and it was just like word vomit or brain dump. And it's like, we're so excited. We learned something. It changed us. It changed family members. It's changing clients, right? We know we get phenomenal results for the people we work with. We want to work with more of them. So how can we do that? I was talking up here and using words and things to describe the problem, but my people that I wanted to serve didn't know they had that problem. They were in the symptom phase. So it's like talking to someone and they're like, oh my gosh, I have this really bad headache. And you're like, oh, you're dehydrated. So you do all this stuff about dehydration and you need more water. And they're like, they don't know they're dehydrated or that could be the potential cause for their headache. They just know their head hurts, which is a symptom. So you might need to meet your audience where they're at with the symptoms they're experiencing and guide them to what that problem is called that positions you as the perfect and only solution. Ooh, doesn't that feel good? That feels really good. So simplify your message wherever and whenever possible. So avoiding metaphors unless it's simple and makes sense. Like if it takes you 3 to 5 minutes to explain the metaphor, probably too complex. Maybe that's something you offer in a course or a one-to-one session when you can explain and there's a back and forth conversation. But a lot of times with social media, we post it up and we don't always get that opportunity to clear up and clarify. Some people won't raise their hand or won't say they're confused because they're embarrassed. So simple, clear language will increase comprehension and it'll help make your message stick. And when you're sick of saying the same thing over and over, that's where we want to be, because that means your audience is probably just starting to put 2 and 2 together that you do this and can help them with that, right? So don't worry about repeating yourself. Things move at hyperspeed. Very rarely will anyone notice or care. And I don't know if you've noticed in a lot of the courses and things I've taken, there's a lot of repetition built in the manuals, in the workbooks, in the slides, in the audio, in the transcripts, over and over and over again, right? Because we want to remember it. And that's how our brain reinforces the information so we can recall things quicker. Clear messaging reduces confusion, which leads to higher conversion rates. A confused audience will never buy. But if they understand who you are, what you do, and what you can do for them, they're more apt to hand you their credit card. They understand how you can help them. And then it's just a matter of when they're going to pull that trigger. And clear copy respects your audience's time, and it makes them more likely to engage. Short and sweet. If your strong suit is long form copy, start mixing in some short form or no form. I have a client right now who's doing reels, and other than hashtags or SEO, really doesn't have any copy, right? It's working. She is in a growth phase. So she is building, she's not nurturing, she's not selling. So it's all about building that audience. And before she slides into the nurture phase where the stories get deeper, and then she starts talking more about what she's doing, then the copy will increase. And then we go into a sales phase where we start talking about the actual product that they are launching. And yeah, your reach will go down, your engagement will go down anytime you sell something that happens. And just like with emails, you're going to get a higher unsubscribe rate when it's like, buy my thing, I'm so excited, whoa, right? But that doesn't mean we need to stop, right? We just know and can anticipate and not worry about why that's happening. We know, we expect it. It's not a thing, it's a little bump. So to sum up, complex or confusing copy can alienate your audience, which we don't want. And I know none of us want to do that in here. And it can cause them to disengage, unfollow, or not return back to your page or your platform where they want to connect with you. And we want them to come back. We want raving fans. We want them addicted to your content, waiting for the next episode to drop, right? So think about creating your copy first and then coming up with your hook. So I think of it like Jeopardy, right? You get the clue and then have to phrase your answer in the form of a question. And you don't want to do this for every copy, but negative responses get much higher rate than positive ones. I'm not going all negative when it comes to hooks, but I follow Brock Johnson on Instagram. He's hysterical. He's really funny. And he had a hook and it said, "Shut up, nerd." And he went, there's a picture of him with his hand over his mouth. And I was like, okay, I'm a nerd. Immediately, I identified with the word nerd. And shut up, I feel like, is like a generational thing. I'm Gen X. So it was like, shut up, right? It wasn't like shut your mouth. So I'm like, okay, what is this? And it was a carousel. So I kept swiping and swiping. And it was all about the power of a negative hook. And he said stresses not to use it for every hook, sprinkle it in. And then it was read the caption for more. So there were no other words on the I think there were 2 definitions and a stat, but then you had to read the copy for what he started to see as a trend. So I read the whole, like I'm talking to you about it now, right? So it clearly stuck. I watched it once, swiped through, read it. That was 2-3 days ago. Told a story about it. Negative hook caught my attention, stuck in my head. And then the copy of how to use it, why to use it. And now I'm sharing it with you. That's what we want our followers to do with our content. So 2-3 days later, they're having a conversation or they're messaging, or better yet, they're sharing your post because it's an awesome story and they can relate because you're in their head and speaking their language because you're talking about their symptoms, and you will connect it to the problem you solve. But right now they're in pain and they're in the symptom phase, right? When you're sick and you go to the doctor, you don't really care what you have. You're just like, I want to feel better. That's where our people may be. Some might be farther along, but we want to talk to one specific person whenever we're creating our copy, instead of trying to reach too many or solve too many problems or weave in too many symptoms. So let me know what you thought of this part 2 copy. So posting potion ingredient number 2, part 2. What stood out to you? I would love to know. So drop it in the comments and I will see you on the next one. So until then, I see you. I support you. I love you. Get out there and embrace.